جزاك الله خير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أسعد خلقه وخاتم رسله محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. ثم أما بعد. Such a pleasure to be with my brother, my sister here on this occasion, and I find it an opportunity to do some deep thinking with my brothers and sisters who are attending with us. At times of crises like this, some people are busy with action and reaction and the day-to-day, which is very important, and we will hear about that from my brother Dr. Nabil and from Sister Nikita on how to deal with the crisis in our daily lives. But it's also important to take a step back and try to look at the bigger picture and try to benefit from the, I guess, the fluidity of the times and the new ideas and the new settings that we are seeing in order to think about what concerns us. What concerns us the most is the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Islam, the future of Islam, the future of Muslims, the future of believers, and the future of humanity towards a better good on the human level. The Islamic jurisprudence has a major role to play in the future of humanity, but we have some issues that we need to deal with internally. Hence, the title that I told my brothers I chose for this, which is Rethinking Islamic Jurisprudence. When we talk about jurisprudence, first of all, we're not talking about Sharia. We're really talking about fiqh. And there is a difference because Sharia is from Allah. It's complete, it's divine, it's non-changeable. It's for every place and time. But fiqh is not complete and is not divine and is not for every place and time. It changes with the change of place and change of time. Of course, there are some matters that are fixed, but many, many matters, especially related to issues of public concern, like what we are dealing with now, are changeable with change of time and place, and therefore the changes of technology and societies and so on. And fiqh could be also right and could be wrong. In unprecedented times like that, you notice that scholars have some different opinions. Some of them are right, some of them are not right. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us to do ijtihad, to do our best. There are approaches to the Islamic jurisprudence that are not authentic in terms of Islam and are, in my view, harmful for the Ummah. And it is an opportunity to go beyond these views. A view that looks at fiqh of Islam or the understanding of Islam in two silos. I call it in my writing the schizophrenic fiqh, in which the Muslim has two personalities. There is a personality that has to do with worshipping Allah, what is called in the Quran sha'air, or the acts of worship, really. But worship or ibadah is a much bigger concept, but the Muslim would pray and fast and give charity and so on in one silo. And then there is another silo that has to do with life, that has to do with everything that we see, the economic matters, the trade, the politics, the policy, issues of public health as we are dealing these days, issues of artistic expressions, whatever it is that is related to dunya versus what is related to deen. And deen is defined in terms of a few ibadat that a Muslim might be faithful in doing and be regular in doing, but they don't represent the bigger picture of Islam, because Islam is a way of life. Islam is for everything. Islam is for how we do economics and politics and how we do health and arts as well. But this schizophrenia, which you could call it a secular approach to Islam or something, in which people don't think that Islam has anything to do with issues of public concern. There is a little bit of a better approach in which Islam has something to do with issues of public concern, but it approaches these issues in an apologetic way. And here the Islamic jurisprudence maintains the status quo on every level of this dunya. The deen is the same. You follow an imam, you ask questions, etc. I'm talking about what we call loosely in fiqh al-mu'amalat, or the worldly affairs. In the worldly affairs, the apologetic approach takes a step further from the schizophrenic approach. It says something about Islam and economics, and Islam and politics, and Islam and public health, but it doesn't rethink these systems. It takes the systems that we live under as is, and does not ask critical questions about where these systems came from and how Islamic they are. It is the same good old riba or usury, but we play a trick in order to make it Islamic, you see. It's the same good old way of slaughtering animals, but we call it halal because we are going to be apologetic for the way we deal with animal farms and so on. They are un-Islamic in many ways, but we make them Islamic because we take an approach that is called, if you wish, a partialistic approach, a narrow approach, where it becomes halal only if we say Bismillah. But the cow could have its stomach open and, you know, fed through a pipe, as we see in farms today. But we still call it halal because when we slaughter, we say Bismillah. But we raise that cow and we feed it in an un-Islamic way. The chicken cannot even stand on its feet, but because the computer is saying Bismillah, Bismillah, now the chicken becomes halal. It's the same good old bank and the same good old monopoly and the same good old slavery of people in the current corporate culture, but we call it halal because we want to observe the rights of the owners of business and so on. And that approach to Islam, the apologetic approach, does deal with reality, but it doesn't attempt to change reality. Islam is a force of change. Islam is a force of reform. Muslims are supposed to be rectifiers of earth, Islah al-Ard, the Quran says. And that rectification is based on particular objectives. Hence come the maqasid that my brother Dr. Nabil talked about, the maqasid or the objectives of Islam. If we take an objective-based approach, then we are going to start to ask why questions, because the objective is the answer of the question of why. So why is the economic system this way? Why are people starving? Alhamdulillah, in Canada, we're much better than many other countries. But why are people starving if they don't go to work for a week or two? That is inhumane. And from an Islamic point of view, that's un-Islamic. Humanity is not supposed to starve, literally, because they can't find food for a few dollars. And then you see parliaments and congresses and, you know, legislative bodies everywhere fighting over giving people a little bit of the trillions that the system is accumulating at the top in order for people to feed. But food is an Islamic right. From an Islamic point of view, food is a right. Food is not something you earn. Everybody has to feed on earth. Yes, you could earn to be rich or poor in Islam, but you cannot be poor below food, below warmth, and people freeze in somewhere in the world, or and so forth, or people cannot find water to drink, and so forth. So Islam, in that sense, if you wish, the comprehensive approach, the holistic approach, the maqasidi approach that your brother writes about, is an approach that critiques the current systems that we go by from an Islamic point of view, and asks questions of why, so that we can rectify, we can better ourselves. If we ask why we have the problem that we have these days, and we take a step back and look at the bigger picture. This is not just a medical issue. Yes, we have to deal with all the medical precautions, but this is a bigger issue because the whole system, the whole environmental system, if you wish, has been messed up because of us, because of humans, and how we deal with wildlife. I mean, the direct cause of this anyway, how some cultures deal with wildlife with no constraints and no limits on human action. How we deal economically. This is not just a medical problem, this is an economic problem. Many people, as I'm saying, are starving in the world. And that is part of this phenomena that we have. How we deal with these issues, how we treat the environment, and not just the wildlife, but the environment in general. Earth in general is being exploited to levels that are unprecedented. How we deal with the marine life and how we fish these days. Now, in Western countries, we have legislation that allows, the electrocuting whole schools of fish and dynamiting the sea with warfare instruments in order to bring our seafood. And these kinds of approaches to nature are going to cause nature to retaliate, because we are not observing the balance, or the sunnah, the universal law of balance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created in the world. And when we don't observe the balance on many levels, I could go on about that, then we could expect the earth to be imbalanced, all the way from global warming to viruses and floods and so on. And it's natural, it's a natural cycle that we have earthquakes, it's a natural cycle that we have viruses, but it is our capability of dealing with a virus in an economic system. Look south the border, for example, that is supposed to be very rich, but people are fighting over like a $1 mask or a $5 mask, because the priorities are not right. And therefore the virus is impacting our lives more than it should. And because there is so much damage that we do to our natural resources and our social fabric, and so many things that would enable humanity to deal in a better way with an epidemic or pandemic like this. So within the time that is limited, today, I just wanted to share some thoughts about the importance of the comprehensive approach, the importance of basically, in modern terms, research and education in Islam, high-level research and high-level education, so that the Islamic talk is not, or the Islamic, if you wish, discourse, is not like speaking to 7 or 9-year-old, as it is mostly these days. The Islamic discourse is a bit at a higher level. The Islamic discourse is trying to rectify what humanity is doing on earth and trying to make it a better world, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us to do. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of us and all of our viewers to be safe and to come out of this stronger in terms of our faith and healthier, inshallah. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala His forgiveness and His victory over ourselves and our evil deeds. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.